AITA for calling the police on my fiance. Last night my male 35, fiance, female 38, left in the evening to give a friend's son a ride back to his home. She implied she'd be home before 9. She left at around 7:45. 10:15 rolled around and she still wasn't home. I texted and she apologized to me, saying that her friend's son was actually in the next town over, maybe 30 minutes away, and she was coming home now. 11:45 rolled around and she still hadn't come home, so I called her to no answer, texted her to no response. I was getting very upset. 12:30 rolled around and still no response and no answer to my phone calls. I was extremely angry. 1:30 rolled around and my anger had completely transformed into worry. Not answering my calls and texts not read. Around 1:45 I called the police. I have always heard that the first 24 hours of someone being missing is the most important, so I didn't want to delay. I asked them to let me know if there had been any traffic accidents involving her car, and the operator told me that they would put out the word and send some cops to check along the route she would travel. I called all the hospitals in the area to check if she had been checked in, and I waited outside watching the road for her car for 3 hours, partially because I didn't want the kids to hear me on the phone with hospitals, and secondly because I was sick with worry. At 7 a.m. she came home. She apologized for being out and said she had no excuse. She was driving home and felt tired, like she was falling asleep at the wheel, so she pulled over to the side of the road to sleep. When she did that, she found that her brand new phone had stopped working. She says she napped anyway because it was the responsible thing to do, and then came home at 7 a.m. to bring the kids to school and get to work on time. I immediately called the police and told them that she had come home safely and gave them the case number and told them to stop searching, which they did. My fiance brought the kids to school and left for work. I set out to start cleaning. Cleaning distressed me sometimes, and I got a call from a policeman asking where she worked. I told him, and asked why, and I was informed that it was their policy to check on the person's wellness after a missing person is found. I asked them to not go by her work but to give her a call instead. He said he couldn't promise. My fiance is relatively new to her job. A police officer showed up and asked to speak with her. She is now enraged at me for calling the police and sending a cop to her work and making her look bad. She is saying I overreacted and that she wasn't missing and that I was punishing her for doing the responsible thing and not driving while drowsy. She is saying that she is never going to leave the house again except for work, because she is afraid I'm going to call the cops on her again. So did I overreact? Should I have waited 2 days like she suggests? Update. First of all, thank you to those of you who offered kind words and solid advice. This update is likely to disappoint some of you, as it does me. My fiance and I have been fighting solidly since before I posted my last thread. It's been exhausting. I called her out on her obvious lie and she fumed at how awful I was for calling her a liar. From then on it was as if she was falling down a smooth well, desperately clawing and grabbing at anything she could to blame me for as she went deeper and deeper. I'm not a perfect man, but in this particular situation, I was an angel, so she had nothing to grab onto. I did a lot of soul searching, and I made a call that most of you will hate. I decided to bury the hatchet. I love her very, very dearly. I had no proof of a lie, and I wasn't too concerned about what she was really up to anyway. Our relationship is open, so even if she fricked around, I didn't care much. She still fought with me though. The fight continued to the point where she broke up with me, but not really, which was a common tactic she had used before. I called her on it and she still fought with me. I asked for space for a night so I could sleep off the exhaustion, and she got upset and told me I was neglectful and selfish for not going to her and making up in person. I am stupid. I am aware of it. Even through all of this, I was apparently able to believe that what she said in emotion wasn't really her talking. Today I was having lunch. Money has been tight lately, for some reason, weird. So I flipped through my wallet to find my credit card, which was missing. Well, you see where this goes. She had stolen it. She cited our desire to join lives together and merge finances, and that when I lent her my wallet once, she took it so she wouldn't have to bother me by asking again. This credit card is mine, under my name and for emergencies only. She was using it for the last month and a half. Well, she has been decent enough to pay back some of it. There was still a $1,500 balance on it that hasn't been paid. She says that it's here just as much as mine and resents me calling her a thief. A lot of the uses were spent at ATMs for cash withdrawals and some interesting ones at the casino. Those of you who guessed gambling were probably right on the money. At that point, I admit I lost it. I am a very calm person, but there was only so much denial of reality that I could take. It's still blurry, but I said a lot of horrible things to her and am in the process of evicting her from my life. I am canceling everything that is in my name that she is a part of, including the new phone line, canceling her car insurance and reclaiming my car that I gave her, and she has trashed. Apparently I can handle lies, cheating and secrets, but who knew theft was my line? Learning experience. Now thinking back, I can identify lots of sketchy poop that my love goggles blinded me to. But there's a pretty strict character limit. Not the idiot. You dodge a bullet. It could have been way worse, especially with gambling addicts. Better check your accounts more frequently and make sure she cannot touch anything. She's an extraordinarily toxic person. Citing a desire of merging finance to take the card had me flabbergasted. Like, this is not how teamwork works. Not the idiot. Glad you have some sort of closure, bud, and an outcome that gives you a fresh start and move on to better things. Her carrying on after you buried the hatchet proved her toxicity, and that would have been no good for you going forward. I wish you all the best. Now, for the next story. AITA for refusing to invite my fiance's ex to our wedding. So my fiance and I were working on the list of people that we are inviting to our wedding next year, and he wants to invite one of his ex-girlfriends, who he is still friends with. I am not down with that. I said I don't want to get married in front of the girl who was his GF before me and with whom he had his longest relationship. They were together for 6 years. We have been together for 1. I have met the girl a couple of times. We are civil and I know she is engaged, so this is not about jealousy. The idea just feels really weird and uncomfortable to me. He said that she is part of his friend group and he cannot invite all of their friends and leave her out. He said that she is a part of his life as his friend before and after she was his girlfriend. He lived with her in college and she paid for everything because he was broke from supporting his siblings. He said she does not need to be seated anywhere near the altar where I can see her, but he wants her to be there. Am I the idiot? Edit. I just want to clarify that she did not pay his tuition fees. She paid for their apartment, bills and food. And that is a lot, and I'm glad she was there for him when he needed help. Update. So it's been over a month since I first posted, and I thought that I'd post a last update for you guys as part of closing this chapter of my life. Short story, my fiancé and I have broken up. During pre-marriage counseling, he realized that he still loves his ex. She also broke off her own engagement for him. They are now back together. I took to heart 3 things from the replies in my original thread. Those who said I was. You're the idiot told me not to look at my fiancé as his ex but as his friend. Those who said I was. Not the idiot advised that I should talk to my fiancé about my insecurities. Some suggested pre-marriage counseling. So I swallowed my pride and told my then fiancé that his ex is welcome in our wedding because she is his friend. I also told him of my insecurities and asked if we could go to pre-marriage counseling. He was supportive and agreed. After our second meeting with our counselor, my ex-fiancé talked to me. He said that counseling has made him realize that he is still in love with his ex. I was in total shock because he has always been the perfect boyfriend. I never felt like I was competing with anyone for him. He said he never meant to hurt me and that he did love me, but he could not marry me knowing that part of him will always belong to someone else. It's been a few weeks since we broke up and surprisingly I have been holding up well. It hurts because I miss him, but I just tell myself that he's not the right one for me. I'm 23. I have my whole life ahead of me and it's an exciting new adventure to try to find the right person. My ex-fiancé and I are civil. He is a good guy and I appreciate our time together, though it sucks that it has ended. From what I know, he told his ex that he still loves her, and I guess she felt the same way because she also broke off her engagement to give their relationship another try. Good luck to them. Not the idiot. Can I just say that you're being super healthy about this? And so is your ex. Super proud of you, and I don't know you. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't have married my now ex-husband at the age of 22 because I definitely had someone else on my mind. Not the idiot. Sorry for the loss, but congratulations are starting a new chapter in your life. That being said, do not take him back in 6 months when he realizes that the same issues that broke them up in the first place are still issues. Now I suggest starting this new chapter by planning a nice vacation somewhere beautiful. Now, for the next story. AITA for kicking my sister out of my family gathering after a comment about my adopted son. Some feel I, male 32, should have handled the situation, but I don't see how I'm wrong. Me and my sister, 37F, are not as close as we used to be because of some messed up stuff that happened years ago. I had my son Jesse, 9, pretty young. Months after that, to my surprise, my ex was pregnant again. Only I knew it wasn't me because having an infant to take care of and provide for left me with zero interest in sex. And we found out it was my sister's fiancé ex now that she was seeing behind our backs. It hurts. Worst pain ever, but for my son's sake I tried to get past it. I come from a family of half-sibs too, so I wanted my son to be close to his half-brother, Keith. Surprise. Not only were they, my ex and my sister's ex, horrible lying cheaters, but also terrible parents. Both got hooked on drugs, only escalated from there. He got locked up when Keith was 3. This particular issue with my sister happened a couple years ago. My ex got sick. She was scared of Keith ending up in foster care like her, and I didn't want that for him either. I illegally adopted him before she passed when he was 6. Not everyone in my family was on board at first, but he's the kind of kid that is hard not to love, so they warmed up to him. My sister never did. She hated that I brought the son of her ex-fiancé into my family, and I understood why it was painful, but Keith's and Jesse's best interests were my main priority. That's how we drifted apart. Last weekend was my birthday and I had a small barbecue at my place. My parents have tried hard to mend things between us, so they convinced me to let her come too so we can chat. I thought that meant she was cool with Keith because obviously the 3 of us are a package deal. I asked my parents how she would feel about Keith. They said not to worry about it. Again, I took it as she came around. Only she wasn't told he would also be present. But how could he not be? He lives there. My sister got there and she was mad when she saw him. She very specifically said, "I thought this was family only, what's he doing here?" Loud enough where he could have easily heard, but thankfully he was playing with his brother. My sister was pissed because my parents told her Keith wouldn't be around. And I got pissed when she told me she didn't want him here, expecting me to do something about it. So I just told her to leave, and she's not welcome here then. There was some back and forth from her and my parents. I didn't want that kind of talk around my son, so I still made her leave. My mom seems to think I was a huge idiot for kicking her out of my party instead of trying to work things out. Like they take Keith somewhere out of sight while me and her talk. But to me, what's the point of us working it out if that's how she still feels toward my son? Well, this is still causing some conflict since I escalated the feud by making her leave instead of actually talking to her. Am I the idiot? Update. Okay, I actually wasn't going to add anything, but figured since conflict has somewhat resolved, why not? This issue was mostly on my parents, and I decided to contact my sister to discuss what to do with them. It was a very tense conversation. Really tense. She was still very mad at me. Lots of resentment, obviously. I was angry at her for her reaction at my party, but at least we managed to remain civil and kept the topic solely on our parents to make sure they don't try to pull something like this again. We agreed neither of us will be in each other's lives, her issues with Keith and me not wanting to exclude him as he's a big part of my life, and agreed that we both needed to speak to them together to get that point across. When we met up with them, we told them they're gonna have to accept that this is how it's going to be. Do holidays and celebrations like we've done them before, separate, one of us not attending, or showing up after the other has left. And they are not allowed to push us into talking, ambush us the way they did again, or that'll result in losing us both permanently. In the end, they seem to have got it. At least they apologized, and that was that. My sister and I went our separate ways. Does it absolutely suck? Yes, but that's where life's taken us. At least now neither of us have to worry too much if we're going to get tricked into a meeting again, at least I hope not. Oh, one thing I wanted to address, my son. I did see a few comments concerned if Keith heard what she said or not, or maybe he pretended not to. I kinda hope that he just didn't, since I didn't see a reaction, but thanks for pointing that out. In case he did, I didn't want him internalizing that. Unfortunately, yes, he did hear. We had a whole conversation several nights ago alone. He didn't want to admit at first he heard her, but you can tell from the kids. This heavy stuff never gets easy explaining to a kid. Best I could say was she was just angry, and angry people sometimes say mean things for no reason. But no matter what, he's family. He knows he's my boy and I love him, and his brother does too. I'm glad he knows that. Glad people brought it to my attention. Glad to have gotten Reddit's support and wisdom. I appreciate it so much. Not a perfect ending where everyone got along, but at least now boundaries have been drawn and less chances of this happening again. Not the idiot. I'm glad you were able to have an in-depth discussion with your son. Definitely keep your boundaries up and watch for any self-hate talk. I don't belong with you talk, just in case. The way you handled your parents with your sister was kind of amazing. Truce to deal with this topic. Your parents' behavior, tricking both of you, and then stay away from me. Not the idiot. Your kids are very lucky to have a mature, compassionate father like you. I'm sorry you're going through this, but just know your kids will thank you one day for having their back and loving them unconditionally.